Hey everyone, today we're going over our current plan for our 4 seasons passive solar greenhouse, so stick around. Before I show you what our plan is, I want to give a shout out to Ian, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Ian is one of our subscribers, and he had an idea that it might be nice to see what we have planned for our 4 seasons passive solar greenhouse that we're going to be building, hopefully starting this spring. The community tab on our channel page is open, and if you have an idea for a video, you can just reply to that first post that I made in the community tab. But thank you, Ian, for this great idea. We live in northern Iowa in USDA Plant Hardiness Zone 5A. And so we've got some issues with cold weather in the wintertime, and we want to be able to run our greenhouse all year round. So let's take a look at what our goals are for the greenhouse. We have 4 main goals. We want to be able to grow all of our vegetables. We want to be able to do that year round, and we want to be able to provide some of our fruit needs. Another goal we have is to be able to get to the greenhouse easily in bad weather. We would prefer to try to maintain a temperature in our greenhouse not lower than 50 degrees Fahrenheit. We want to do that year round without adding supplemental electric heat or using propane. We also want an indoor design that is easy for elderly people to be able to move around in. If this is the first video that you're watching of ours, we are building our homestead for retirement purposes. So when we're 75, we want to be able to get around easily to the things that we need to do. This is the southern facing side of our home. And just to orient you a little bit, our home was built in 1920, and this area over here is a new, more recent addition. This back deck here, beyond this back deck to the left in this picture would be our chicken coop. So when we go out to do anything with the chickens, when we're older, we can just go off of this back deck and right down to the chicken coop. This area over here is where we're going to be putting our greenhouse. So here you see that there is a porch on this southern side that was enclosed by the previous owner. On the other side of this porch, we have a door, which I'm going to talk about later. We have a ramp that we had put in when my mother was living with us, and that will be going away, but we're going to talk about the modifications to this part later on. Now, I apologize for the blurriness here, but I had to take this from a video that we did previously. We've been researching passive solar greenhouses for probably about 1.5 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. And this last February, we took a field trip to see a working passive solar greenhouse. A gentleman by the name of Shannon Machukanas has a great passive solar greenhouse in South Dakota at his homestead called Wayward Springs Acres. If you haven't seen the video of our field trip there, he is a wealth of information, and I will link to it in the description of this video if you'd like more detailed information. And in the description of that video, there are some awesome, really detailed webinars that Shannon has done that you could check out too for more details on this. But in general, let's take a look at how a passive solar greenhouse works. This is actually the model of Shannon's that he made. A passive solar greenhouse has glazing facing the southern direction. The back wall is heavily insulated, the northern wall. Underneath, there are different ways that you can do a passive solar greenhouse, but this is in general the way that we are going to do it. Underneath the greenhouse, there is a climate battery, and this is just a series of perforated tubing. Some people call it earth tubes, some people call this earth battery, but it's basically a climate battery. It's where you store heat. The heat is stored in the earth or whatever material, some people use rock, under the ground. And this climate battery is insulated, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. But basically what happens is when the sun comes out during the day and heats up your greenhouse and there is excess heat, a fan will push that excess heat down into these tubes and warm the earth or the rock or whatever it is you have down there. And it will essentially hold that heat until you need it. And at night, when the temperature starts dropping, and all of this is temperature controlled, when the temperature starts dropping, then a different fan comes on, pulls the air through the climate battery, warming it up and bringing it back out into the greenhouse to maintain a temperature that's above freezing, or in our case, we want it to be above 50 degrees or above. Let's take a little bit closer look at the climate battery of Shannon's greenhouse, which is the goal that we have as well. This photo right here shows his climate battery as he's making it, and it shows the series of tubes. He dug down 4 feet, and he's provided a concrete wall in here. And concrete also has thermal mass, so what he's doing is he's utilizing that concrete to also retain heat. Outside of the concrete is insulation. So it's an insulated climate battery that stores heat and in his case it's soil, and it will be in ours too. And so there's layers of this perforated tubing. It's tubing, dirt, tubing, dirt, tubing, dirt. We will be digging down 5 feet and adding an extra layer of tubing to hopefully get a little bit more heat boost from that. So that's basically how a climate battery works, and that's what we would plan as well. A little bit about glazing for the greenhouse. This is triple wall polycarbonate glazing that Shannon has used on his. He's also added it to the east and west sides to capture more light. What we would do is have an east and west wall that is heavily insulated and solid, because we want to retain a little bit more heat in the wintertime. And then if we needed to, we could add some artificial grow lights to extend the light that we have. The material that we're considering using for our glazing is a material called Solar Wrap. Solar Wrap it looks kind of like large bubble wrap, but it's got properties that are just as good as this triple wall polycarbonate glazing. It's very strong, very durable. It's got a long warranty on it. I think the warranty is like 10 years, maybe 15 years, but people have used this Solar Wrap with a longevity of 20 years or more. So that would be what we're considering for our glazing. Then we would also add a second layer of probably some type of greenhouse film, likely clear, so that we don't inhibit the light transmission through the glazing, a few inches down from our glazing, and that will create an air pocket and prevent some of the heat loss at night. In a passive solar greenhouse, of course, your heat loss at night is mainly going to be through the glazing. And then another option to retain that heat at night, which we will consider if we need to, is called a thermal curtain. Now, a thermal curtain extends out at night, at sunset, from your greenhouse, and ours will go out and down. What this does is it reduces the size of the area that you need to heat at night. So if you had a thermal curtain that came out here and down at night across your whole greenhouse, it would be easier to retain heat. And so we would consider that if we need to. If you choose the right material for your thermal curtain, it can also act as a shade cloth in the summertime. In the summertime, passive solar greenhouses are notorious for getting too hot, having too much heat. So see these vents up here that Shannon has put that actually open on, I believe, an actuator according to whatever the temperature is in the greenhouse. When we went to Shannon's greenhouse, it was February and it was 22 degrees outside, but it was 79 inside the greenhouse. So there can be quite a temperature difference utilizing some of these methods. Let's take a look at our specific situation and how we hope to achieve our goals for our greenhouse. This picture, I kind of photoshopped one of the arches. Dan salvaged some steel arches from a defunct building on a farm near us. And so we are going to utilize those as our steel arches that will have our glazing. Our greenhouse is going to be approximately 24 feet wide, and then from this brick porch area here out to here is 20 feet. We'll have a short knee wall here. That's just so when we're mowing or whatever, we don't damage our glazing with something that would fly out of the mower or anything like that. So there will be about a 2-foot knee wall here, and then our arches, which will have the glazing, and then there will be solid area from somewhere up here. And if you guys have any ideas on how we can deal with these windows, we would appreciate it. Please leave us a comment if you do have an idea for that. But we would go from about here. We might have to go higher, I'm not sure, but it would be solid from this point to our glazing. And of course, that's going to have to be insulated. So in general, our climate battery is going to be underneath here. And our north wall will be our house. So we know it's going to be heavily insulated. And our east and west facing walls will also be heavily insulated. So let's take a look at this porch. We are going to have to strip everything down to the brick. We want an open brick deck inside the greenhouse. This is also going to serve a couple of purposes. The brick on the deck will also add thermal mass to our greenhouse so that it will also heat up during the day when the sun is out and retain some heat to then release at night when it is colder. So that will help us with some thermal mass there. Also, this deck will provide an area where we can start seeds and grow things in containers as well. But we're going to have to strip all this down. Now, some people are very leery about attaching a greenhouse to a home. And the reason for that is unless you provide a good moisture barrier between the greenhouse and your home, you could get mold issues. You do not want to get mold in your insulation. It can cause all kinds of health issues. So what we would have to be careful of is to really put a good moisture barrier between our house and the greenhouse. And that can be achieved simply by using plastic that you have layered. And all of that is a little bit too detailed for this general video, but the moisture barrier is very important. From the edge of this brick over to the edge of this brick is about 22 feet 9 inches. So we would be extending out in this direction, which I'll talk about in just a minute, kind of how we're going to do that. This is the inside of our house, and this is the little living room looking out onto the enclosed porch area. One thing you notice is there's a doorway here. This is another clue that this used to be an outdoor porch. So what we would have to do is replace a door here. We would also have to enclose this. This is also going to be something that we can work on this winter, but prior to building our greenhouse. And it's actually going to have to be the first thing we do before we start tearing down walls or anything. Looking from the enclosed porch, just to the left of this doorway is the original windows to the outside for the house. And so we would leave those there. Beyond this red curtain that you see behind the window is our office area. And in our office area, we do have capability for wood burning stove. Now, we wouldn't use this one. This one was here when we got here. It's from the late 70s, and after looking up the model number, I am leery about using it at all because it is considered a little bit dangerous to use this particular stove. Like you wouldn't want to leave it overnight or something like that. So we don't want to use this one. We'd have to get a different one. But this could also provide heat for our greenhouse simply by opening the windows over here. We could burn some wood and help to heat our greenhouse that way. Alternatively, if it comes down to where there's a critical point in the greenhouse, it's cold, we could just throw those windows open, but then we would be using the propane that we use to heat our house to also heat the greenhouse. But it is a possibility if all of your food in there is going to freeze. Now, outside of the porch, this is the door area of that picture that we showed before. Out here, this is going to be extended out. This will become an entryway. So there will be a door to get into the entryway. There'll be another door, this one that gets into the deck area of the house. But then we'll also have another insulated door here with steps going down that will allow us to get down into the greenhouse area. So we won't actually have to go outside at all to be able to get to the greenhouse and do what we need to do. This is going to have to be modified. This ramp is going to have to go away. We're going to have to extend this out a little bit to make a landing, and then probably some steps going down. The red circle, this is our well. So we have close access to water, and what we would do is tie into that well and have a hydrant inside the greenhouse. Now I want to show you the inside plan for the greenhouse. the current inside plan, subject to change. But this gridded area is 20, every 3 squares is 1 foot. So we have 20 feet, 24 feet this way, 20 feet this way. Here are the steps from the porch that I was just mentioning. The brown area is dirt, raised beds. This raised garden bed is 16 by 11 feet. The plan is to make a raised garden bed that is nearly waist high. That is for retirement. When we're 75, we might not be wanting to bend over. I already have a little bit of degenerative disc in my back, and so we don't want to make it difficult. This gray area here would be a walkway to access this area. We'll need to be able to work it from both sides because this is about 5 feet. This is about 5 feet. So we need to be able to work from both sides. And this little walkway here maximizes the area that we can use for growing and makes it easy to work. So in this raised garden bed area, 36 square feet goes toward the walkway. 140 square feet then is what we have of growing space. Cold weather vegetables that we can grow over the winter: carrots, onions, cabbage, broccoli, beets, radishes, spinach. You can see them there, and there's more than that. But these are the ones that we would probably be growing the most of. 2 methods would help us grow our vegetables year-round in a small area. One is succession planting. The other one is square foot gardening. We'd also probably have to throw in a little bit of crop rotation for healthy soil. Comment down below if you would like for me to do a video on showing you how I can grow all of our vegetables in about 100 square feet using succession planting and square foot gardening. You see our water hydrant over here that would come in to our greenhouse. Down at the bottom, we have a 17-foot by 4-foot area that's going to be dedicated right now to things like Concord grapes, Myers lemon tree. We might grow melons in the dirt around those. We've got pole beans over here. Over to the left here, this is possibly an area where we'll have some hydroponics. You can grow strawberries in gutters, and or we could do hydroponics here, and this would be like strawberries, lettuce. Over to the right is a vertical growing area where we could plant directly in the dirt and not have a raised bed. So for cucumbers, fresh tomatoes, that kind of thing, this would be that area. 2 things that I want to point out that I need your opinion on. On the left-hand side here, we're considering putting an insulated door with a screen so that it could be opened in the summertime for airflow and for releasing some heat when it gets too hot. And then on the right side, we're going to have a double set of large doors that are heavily insulated for the wintertime so we can seal it up and close it for the winter, but that are also will have a screened area, and also so that we can get things into the greenhouse like chicken litter from the coop, which will fertilize our garden areas. Also rabbit poop, which is like magic for a garden. And when we get meat rabbits, we'd be able to bring in all of that through these double doors. A 5-foot area here if we need to drive the gator in there for any reason. But my question is, and if you will put your answer in the comments, do we need this door over here? If we've got vents in our greenhouse up above that we can open, and we've got these two large double doors. Do we need this? Anytime you add a door to an insulated wall in a passive solar greenhouse, you're going to have a little more heat loss. Let us know in the comments what you think. So that is our current general plan for our 4 seasons passive solar greenhouse at this time. Do you see any issues with it? Do you have a suggestion? What are your thoughts on our current plan? Please leave us some comments and let us know. We thank you for being here today. We appreciate you, and we hope that your day and your week is filled with joy and with peace. Have a great day.